Hi, my name is Dominic Nuncio, and I'm excited to present my cross-cultural organizational design to you. Today I'm talking to you about the organization that I work for, LJCC. We are a church that's 13 years old with 15 staff members and 12 board members helping us run a congregation of 500 members, about 300 weekly attenders, situated 1 mile from UCSD and its 35,000 students, and 2 miles away from Miramar Base, which has another 20 to 40,000 military personnel and their dependents. Our mission is to help equip everyday people to walk with Jesus every day. And some of the values or outcomes that we live into or want to see are that we're people rooted in prayer in the Bible, that we are people that are growing and increasingly becoming aware that we're better together, that we're an intergenerational church, that not just a multi-generational church, which really doesn't require much work, but an intergenerational church that sees each other as a family of families. And then finally, that we are a family of family that's living on mission and being incredibly generous with our time, talent, and treasure as we do so. Though there's a lot of cultural factors and cross-cultural factors to consider living in the 8th largest city in the United States, with the largest border crossing just a few miles south from where we are, with a huge melting pot of different and diverse people with beliefs and customs and practices. For the purpose of this presentation, that's not necessarily how I want to talk about cross-cultural practices. Instead, what I'd like to do is build upon Livermore's definition of culture, meaning the belief, values, behaviors, practices, and attitudes that distinguish a group from another, and put that in place with a cross-cultural issue that's happening with faith, the 18 to 29-year-old generation, and the church. And studies are showing that the 18 to 29-year-old demographic are leaving the church by the droves. Even those who grew up in the church are now disassociating with faith or the church, and they're categorizing themselves as the nones, meaning no religious affiliation. And while research points to a lot of different things, including how the church's view is maybe repressive towards sexuality or the LGBTQ community, with science and faith not being able to mesh up, or the perception that that doesn't work, one of the largest things for the purpose of this presentation that I want to focus on is that there is a common belief among the 18 to 29-year-olds, the millennial and Gen Z generations, that the church is exclusive in their practices. Now, this may not be that shocking for those watching the presentation, but the ramifications of that understanding or that perception are that a generation that is because of globalization has become the most diverse generation, that has had the most exposure to diversity, not only thinks that inclusion is a good thing, it is a core value of their generational beliefs and practices. They value it so deeply, and when the perception of the church being exclusive lines up with that core value, they butt heads, and it feels that that generation has to decide between the people that they love or this faith that feels very antiquated, arbitrary, and so they disassociate with themselves. And research is showing that they are leaving the church by the droves. And what's happening in place is that instead of this intergenerational church, you have a largely boomer generation at the helm, steering the direction of the church. And these national studies and research are indicative of the culture at LJCC. And that's why I believe it's a cross-cultural issue more than just a problem in the church. It really is a cross-cultural issue and requiring leadership, myself included, to employ some of these CQ understanding to how we better meet and serve that demographic of people that have left our church. So the values analysis, if I were to summarize that, is though we value being intergenerational, though we really want to believe that we're better together, as a church right now, I would say we are missing the mark, and we are missing that 18 to 29-year-old demographic, which is crucial to fulfilling the mission of the church. Again, 35,000 students right across the street, and just a few streets down you have these military men and women that are serving our community, that a large majority of them fit into that 18 to 29 population. So why is our church largely boomer, largely upper class, and largely Caucasian, when there's so much diversity in all senses of the word around us, and there's so much cultural practices and beliefs around us that we're not engaging them? Currently, one of the issues that we have is our feedback system. Again, as I've mentioned, we have 12 elders and a triad of leadership, which includes myself, the senior pastor, and the CFO. And though there's diversity in that room with culture, meaning national culture or practices, with age, though largely represented in the 50s and up, I would be the youngest on that board. And gender, what's happening with that feedback system is that we are very much stuck in trying to maintain what is. And so there is really no cross-cultural pursuit in terms of how I'm presenting it with these nuns that are leaving the church. It's really viewed as we'd love to have them if they were to come, but there's no real efforts to reach out to them and be proactive in that. So the current model, in my estimation, would say that we're way more analog versus digital or streaming. We are church people talking about church things that an unchurched, dechurched, or nun group of people are even asking questions about. To use Cameron and Quinn's language, we are a clan culture with sprinklings of hierarchy. So we really are internally focused and really love the people that are there, but we just want to maintain stability. We're not asking the question of how do we move past this, even if that means that some that are in the clan may not like it, because we believe that that is the mission of the church and moving forward in advancing the gospel in our city. So that's where we're situated currently. To move out of it, I would lean into the recommendations that Quinn says. He says that organizational change first has to happen with personal change. And so I'd say, starting at the executive team level and at the board level, that each person in that group, those 15 people, really need to become learning leaders and adopt the posture of learning. We need to learn about ourselves. We need to learn about understanding of CQ and everything from our cultural biases, our perceptions. We need to learn and discuss and share those things so that we can grow. And coupled with that learning, some of my research has shown that the two hallmarks of the change catalyst, which was one of the competencies that we've learned in this program, is that the change catalyst is met with two main areas, the learning leader and effective communication. So what we learn, we need to talk about and share, which feeds into really starting of the learning organization, that as the leaders at the top and the highest level of the organization begin learning and talking about it, they feel that desire and passion for wanting others to learn and discuss that. And this really builds on Sengi's model of the learning organization, where new patterns and thoughts of leading can start being acquired, and therefore new systems and mental modes and things like that can start being adopted to change the direction and scope of the church, again, to reach those 18 to 29-year-olds in a new way and change the direction of where the culture's going. Lippmann Blumen has a beautiful quote about maintaining organizational health, and I believe it applies to this same principle of learning leaders and learning organizations, is that these diverse people are coming together even though there's contradictory ideologies and seemingly unrelated events, that we're moving towards and beyond a politics of differences towards a politics of commonalities. And that's really the task of not only the leadership, but really the church as a whole at LJCC, is that we need to move past us being comfy and cozy as a church to moving towards, again, what Cameron and Quinn talk about, the culture of adocracy, that we need to be entrepreneurial and risk-taking and innovative. So an externally focused church that still is cognizant of what's happening internally. There's certainly a time to be internal, but we're just very skewed and off balance at this point. And so celebrating diversity, leaning into that and mining for that so that we can better accomplish our mission. Practical next steps from these really kind of ethereal and big concepts are, first, at the top of the leadership level, so again, myself, the executive team, and the board, is evaluating our EQ. Bradbury and Graves say it great, that it's understanding what makes us tick. And so that's the first step. We need to understand who we are as people, being self-aware how we are in different situations, and discovering our blind spots as leaders. Building on that, Livermore says that that CQ is building upon EQ, and so I'm recommending that as an organization, again, starting from the top and then making its way through the ranks, is that the leadership takes the 20-item plus 4-factor CQ scale to just understand maybe there's 4 quadrants that we're either deficient in, or we can look at the team and lean into the diversity of the team and say, wow, you're great at CQ Drive. I love CQ Knowledge. Let's combine and unite forces and become better together. Again, one of our values as a church, to better accomplish our mission of reaching every age and stage, and specifically those who have left our church and those who aren't even thinking about coming to our church. Next is reevaluate the guiding coalition. Again, that's Cotter's language, but really looking at the board and the makeup, and as it becomes time to re-up people, that we're making sure that we're very balanced, not only in age and stage, but gender and ethnicity, that we start kind of looking at that to make sure that we're getting the most robust view of what's happening culturally around us, so that we can better engage with the culture around us. And similarly, in that, we want to establish learning relationships. Zachary's work on mentorship, talking about it's the mutual learning that happens, that pairing board members with staff members that are in this situation, a different generations, so they can understand how they're thinking and learning and what they value, and that feeds into sermon content and events that we plan and life group content, and it really has a opportunity to change the focus of the whole church in a very profound way. At a staff level and board level, I'm recommending 360 reviews to start including CQ effectiveness. So building upon those 4, what we're learning, what we need to grow in, it's asking the question, what are you going to do about it at a quarterly basis, and then reviewing that in terms of performance. And one of the ways we can do that is finally practicing Woodhouse's steps on overcoming implicit bias, which includes hanging out with people and establishing relationships with people that aren't like us or don't look like us or think like us. Moving forward, what's key is trust. Trust is a currency of change, and this will require huge cultural shift at LJCC to start adopting some of these practices. And we need to start building trust with those outside the walls of the church, saying that we can be trusted, and carrying out our mission that you're loved and you belong before you believe anything, as well as establishing trust with those in our church. And as we do so, I believe Kinman's right, we'll recover the heart of Jesus, which is to recover a heart for those outside the church walls. And as we do that, we become more effective at equipping everyday people to walk with Jesus every day.